Okay, right. Everyone ready? Okay. So this is the BASc Internships panel event. So we've got a string of, well, we will have 6 finalists with us today to tell you about their internship experience, what they liked, what they didn't like, how they applied, all of the things that kind of go around the application process and the whole experience of being an intern. So what I would say first off is try and keep an open mind. They may have gone to companies that don't interest you, but they'll still be sharing some really useful tips and advice. So just have a think about that rather than focusing on which company they were working at. So some of you probably have met me. If you haven't, I'm the Internships and Vacancies officer for BASc, so I help to support second years, some first years as well, to help you find your internships for the summertime. So I'll be here to answer questions as well as the panellists. So just to check, how many first years have we got here today? So a couple of first years and second years? Great, okay. So there's some of you who are a bit of a way off getting your internships and others who will be thinking about it right now, so that's a good mix. So I'm just going to get the panellists to introduce themselves to start with. So if you just want to go along and say your name.
Hi guys, my name's Beijing.
Hi, I'm Marin.
Hi, I'm Keelan.
Hi, I'm Sveva.
And I'm Sina.
Great. And we're going to have Misha on the end as well. She's going to be coming along later. So if we start with you, Beijing, do you want to just tell us a bit about your internship?
Yeah, sure. I worked for an engineering consultancy called Skelly & Cooch. They are very small. They are a firm with under 50 employees and they're based close to Old Street. So the commute wasn't too far for me. I live in North London, so they are in a very niche market because they're quite multidisciplinary in what they do. So they offer kind of consultancy services to the building services industry. So they work with architects on projects and they specialise in M&E, which is mechanical and electrical engineering. But what I did there was marketing. So that was quite cool because I got kind of an insight into both worlds. Obviously not too much of a technical insight because I was doing marketing, but it was nice to be in a different environment. I was doing marketing there and events management. So they had a company party coming up in September and they needed an intern to assist them with the organisation for that. So I was doing a lot of that and helping to produce new marketing materials because they wanted to kind of become more professional in their materials, and they were working with a design company to, they were going through a whole rebrand. So that was interesting. How did I source this? So I decided I wanted to go into energy and environment around February, but when I was looking at internships for the big companies like BP and Shell, their internship deadlines had gone, and I found myself stuck because I was like, well, I really want to go into this industry, but I don't know where to. I kind of looked on Prospects, Bright Network, there's so many websites out there. If you just Google literally internships, summer, and the industry that you want to go into, but nothing really came up. So I actually got this off the Internships Facebook page where Natalie was posting loads of opportunities. Actually, you posted so many good ones that they were really helpful, honestly. And this was one of the ones offered there. So it said marketing, which was kind of my backup before I realised that I wanted to go into energy environment, for a firm that contributed to helping the environment through kind of energy efficient buildings. So it had that element in it. The application process. So I had to write a cover letter and send my CV to the head of marketing there, and then I was invited for an interview. She said an informal chat, but it was an hour, which was quite long. But I don't know if I would call it informal because obviously I dressed smart and everything. It was at their office. And it was just me and her in a room where she asked me about what I study, and I guess it was kind of informal, but yeah, it was about an hour. and what the work I'd be doing, which is fine. And then yeah, I was offered the opportunity. What was it like during? Okay, so sorry. The question is, what was it like during the internship, and what did you learn about the world of work, and what did you and didn't you enjoy? Okay, so what I didn't enjoy. Well, when I first started, I realised that everyone comes in and sits at a desk every single day for like 8 hours a day, and I wasn't like, I've never really done that, and it was kind of just like, wow, this is what people do every day. Like, they just sit at their computer and they don't move from their desk. So that was quite like, first few days or first couple of weeks, you kind of sit there and it's hard to keep your concentration for so long. So I kind of knew that maybe an office job isn't what I may have wanted, or like it wasn't what I was expecting. But as the weeks went on, the work I was doing became more interesting. So I was liaising with a design company to put together spreads for the company brochure. So I was on the computer a lot. I had a lot of stuff to do, and often I was working until about 7 o'clock. I had standard hours from 9:30 to 5:30, but a few days a week later on in the middle of the internship, I was working until about 7:30 for a few days a week. So I was quite busy in what I was doing, and the time passes quickly. But in the beginning, when I was given like jobs such as like project write-ups, so you had to write about like A4 pages on the projects that the company has worked on with architects. So it was a bit tedious. I wished that the work I was given was a bit more challenging. But I fully enjoyed the work that I was given because I was able to be creative. I'm quite a creative person. I wanted to put my design skills to use. I wasn't really on InDesign or anything. It was more kind of giving your opinion on how things look, or seeing how a design company even works, because I got to go to the design company studio, and that was really cool. But I just wish that maybe I was pushed more out of my comfort zone. Yeah, I think that's what I wish would have been better for me. I think what I liked was that it was really relaxed. Did I find myself using any skills developed through BASc? There wasn't much of a team working element. Maybe you're working with one person here and one person there, but not really like as a team on one project. It wasn't anything like that. In fact, I learned how to work more independently, which was good. There was a point where the head of marketing, which was one lady I was working with throughout the entire time, she had left for a 2-week leave. So I was there by myself, and I handled it quite well, I'd say, and I had to manage. I was working with the director, actually. I don't know how to explain this. So there are 4 directors, and because the firm is so small, that's why everyone gets a lot of attention. And the way that it's laid out, the office is laid out in 4 bays, so each bay has a director. And so I was literally, my desk was right next to the director of my bay, and it was nice to work with someone who's so high up in the kind of the hierarchy of the firm. So I almost felt like a PA, which was quite a cool feeling. But I had to there were so many deadlines to meet, and he was so busy, and he would have to have the final say on things. So it was like using your own initiative a lot. How do you think you developed as a result of the work, technically and personally? And one more thing. I found that one of my modules, some of the content from there was overlapping in this. It was quite cool to learn about timber buildings, which is something I worked in on tech journalism. Keelan was in that module as well. But yeah, that was interesting. So I became more independent. Worked with the director, which was good. Confidence in the office environment. So I was quite scared about taking phone calls, and turns out that my first job using the phone was to call up 10 architects and kind of ask them for their architectural images to include in the brochure. So I was like, I didn't even think I would need a phone set on my desk, but I did, and I used it quite a lot. I was calling up architects all the time, so you develop a lot of confidence through that, and how to be professional with them. and I learned a lot. Yeah, it was nice to get a touch of the architectural industry in there as well. And yeah, writing quick emails, that's a handy skill. Like I was writing emails every day, and usually before that I would take a long time to ensure that my email was like cut correctly, positioned, like everything was fine and professional. But yeah, you learn how to pick up that really quickly, and that's a really handy skill. I think that
Yeah, that's a good point actually. I think learning how to write emails quickly and include the right things so you don't have to send hundreds of emails backwards and forwards over one topic, that's quite a good thing to learn. So yes, a couple of interesting things there. So you obviously had different ideas about the sector you wanted to go into and ended up doing this as a sort of second choice.
Yeah.
So I guess some of the rest of you might have had that sort of experience as well, where you maybe didn't end up working in the place that you originally thought would be your sort of first choice, but actually you got quite a lot out of it and it was interesting.
Yeah.
I think the point you made about sort of office culture and what it's like working in an office every day, that's something that maybe some of you aren't used to and you'll learn about if you do an internship based in an office. So has anyone got any questions for Beijing? Because she's got to run off. She will be available on Facebook if you want to message her afterwards, but does anyone have any questions about Beijing internship? No? No? Okay. So you're free to go when you want. So I think we'll move on now to Marin. So I've asked Marin to talk today because he did an internship in another country. And I know some of you might be interested in doing internships abroad.
I've only done internships abroad.
Yeah, so he's an expert on this. So I think some of the things he shares, even if it's not the country that you want to go and work in, it might still be useful for you.
So I'm a fourth year BASc student, and I was in Japan last year, and I did an internship before that. So I worked for Yahoo Japan, but before that I'd like you to interact with me while I'm talking. It's the way I address people myself, so I hope you'll take the opportunity to ask me questions, not be shy, and I swear I'll be very sad if you don't do this.
That goes for anyone if you want to ask a question at any point.
So I hope there will be at least one person who will interact with me and ask me an interesting question. So I worked for Yahoo Japan in Tokyo before undertaking my year abroad, and I worked as an assistant for a key account manager who was part of a team overlooking the company's main clients. So I helped him gather data about their clients' digital campaigns, and it was either for sponsored search when you enter a keyword online and the first results that come up are those who had the higher bids on the chosen word, or on the display network, which are the banners that you see on the websites you visit if you haven't installed AdBlock yet. And that was for the job I did there. How did I source this opportunity? It was a bit tricky and unexpected. At first, I took it very easy, and I thought it'd be relatively easy for me to find an internship after my second year, because I had already completed a very nice internship the year before in the music industry. I was doing okay here at UCL, and I could speak 4 languages. But actually I was surprised, and I had to write to about 30 companies. At first I was mainly looking for French companies that had offices in Tokyo, but about 28 of them never replied to me and were completely uninterested. So that was a shock, but one replied, and that was Yahoo, and they exchanged emails with me for about 2 months and then asked to set up an interview with me, and getting support from the study abroad team and the placement and you was also very useful, because the last piece to receive an offer really was the internship agreement that you provided me with, and I think only a few students are aware that we have people here at UCL who can help us secure placements with that internship agreement piece. That's very important. And second years should take advantage of this opportunity much more.
So was your Yahoo internship did it last for the whole year?
For 3 months over the summer.
Over the summer?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Before starting my year abroad, I did another one not at Yahoo while I was studying abroad. So yeah, at first I interned for Yahoo Japan. So about the application process, I'd recommend everyone to keep both a hard copy of your CV and your LinkedIn profile up to date. That's very important. And trying to put myself in the shoes of those who took me as an intern, I think it's also very important to demonstrate both your interest for the company you're applying and your trustworthiness. Be polite, answer to emails, and engage with phone calls and interviews. And that's very interesting because Bayesian said that she was reluctant at first to use her phone that was on her desk. But I think talking to employers and talking to colleagues, either on the phone or personally, is very important, and it can make a real difference when it comes to finding an internship. What was it like during the internship? It was better than expected, and better than everything else I ever did. Some might have found it very repetitive because it was all about retrieving data for clients' campaigns and analyzing it and going to meet the clients to give them feedback about how they could make their digital campaigns more efficient and how they could make new beats on different keywords to widen the scope of their audience. But I like the relative comfort of knowing what I had to do and becoming good at it. It was very different from market research or looking at my former manager managing local teams across Europe at the previous company I interned at. And now I really want to work in the IT industry in the future. Did I use any skills developed through BASc? Obviously the language. Oh, sorry.
Did you have an interview?
I did.
And how did it go? Because Yahoo is obviously a really big organization.
It was Yahoo Japan, and it's bigger than Yahoo. Yahoo was bought by Verizon last year. While Yahoo Japan is actually a portal company that's a joint venture with a telecom giant, a Japanese telecom giant called SoftBank. I don't know if any of you have heard of it before. Where SoftBank is the main shareholder, and Yahoo Inc. used to be the second one, but they've little by little they've sold their stake in the company, and now it's about 30 for each of them. So yes, I had an interview after exchanging emails for about 2 months with the team I was gonna work with. And it was very special because usually they only took tech interns, mostly from India, and this time it was about marketing, and they really made an exception for me after I provided my CV, showed a lot of interest through repeated emails, and accepted to go on an interview via Skype with them. Someone else wanted to interrupt. Yeah.
Did they expect you to speak an Asian language or Japanese?
Yeah. So that's where I was going to. I used the language that I learned at UCL here, starting at level B and then doing level C in my second year. But studying 2 years, so studying 2 years helped me a lot, but was barely enough. There was a real language barrier, but not so much about speaking, but about reading and keeping up with over 300 daily emails written in Japanese.
So I think this is like
All
an
over my
extreme
head.
example of
Yeah.
if you go and work abroad, obviously there'll be other places where
Yeah.
it's not quite as difficult. I think Marin put himself in this position where it would be really a real challenge.
And at some point I regretted it. I was like, oh my god, it would be so much more convenient to go back to France and talk French with my colleagues in Japan. I really had a hard time sometimes finding out what they were talking about and what was this email about and everything. But when it came to talking to people, I mean, I was fairly well integrated and I could join conversations and even in the end of my internship, make proposals to our clients. So that was good. But I would definitely say that the language barrier was very present. And how did I develop as a result of the work I did? Interestingly, I was more of a soft skill person here at UCL. So joining Yahoo Japan gave me more hard skills like reading graphs and interpreting data. But in the end, it's all about your academic path here at UCL and the work you choose to do as an intern. So I would be surprised if everyone had the same sort of story to share. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Sorry, so you said you repeatedly emailed them. How do you do that without like being a bother?
Being what?
Being a bother to them, like being like annoying.
That's very difficult. I tried to write in proper Japanese, so I asked my Japanese friends for advice before sending it. That helped me. And I was lucky enough to have friends that were that could quickly reply to me and say, that's not correct, change this word and send it now. So we didn't lose time exchanging. And the time difference also made it very important to keep track of the emails we were sending to each other.
It can be difficult to get a balance, I think, sometimes between pestering an employer and keeping the conversation going. So I think, if you are going to write to them, maybe it's more about asking questions about the work that they do. So there's something new you're bringing each time you contact them, and just keep the conversation going. And I think you can use sort of LinkedIn as well. I think the point you made about keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date and your CV up to date is a really good one. All through the time that you're applying, you should be doing that, because you never know when you're going to have to send it to someone or who might be looking at your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. So, great. Any other questions for Marin before we move on? Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to adapt to the different culture and working environment in Japan?
I think it would be for everyone very difficult to adapt to a new culture, but it depends on the people who welcome you in the organization you're gonna work for. So I had a really good time because the people were very attentive to making me have a good time, and they took me out before my first day at the company to this restaurant where Kill Bill kills everyone. You know that place, that restaurant in Japan, and like yakuza's are coming from all over the place. So that was really a memorable night I had with everyone, and that contributed to install a good atmosphere for everyone to work together.
I suppose this might have a bit of overlap with Kane's question, but in what ways would you say the application process was made more difficult by being like a continent away from where you wanted to work? Like, because for most of your application process, you were probably here in London, I assume.
Yeah.
And so, how is applying to like a Japanese firm more difficult than an English firm in terms of this kind of separation?
Well, the language again, because every email was written in Japanese. Can't recall any email written in English, so it was really, everything was in Japanese, and that was, I think, the first barrier to exchanging emails with an organization located on that other continent. But apart from that, I mean, I was interested in interning there, and they were quite interested in me, I think.
So
it
maybe
worked out well.
maybe the point is there that actually there's not that much difference apart from being aware of the time difference or the language barrier.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about what people can do to help you get the thing you want. Because if the man I worked for at Yahoo Japan hadn't actively tried to convince his boss to take me and let me come to Japan, I wouldn't have traveled to do my internship. Yeah.
So I think, showing enthusiasm and then getting that
Curiosity.
person to convince someone else to take you, it's a good idea. So I think we're just going to move on now. You can ask some more questions at the end.
Hit me up on Facebook or come to see me after this session.
You're welcome. So we'll move on to Keelan now.
Sorry.
I have musical tickets tonight.
Sina was based in London.
Yeah.
So back to the UK now.
Yeah, back to UK. I was interning at Google this summer. And basically I was sitting here last year and Alison was talking about her internship at Google and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I applied around kind of this time and it's a very easy application process. It's just your CV and you have an optional cover letter. However, they say optional and I asked them, they don't even bother to read it because it just gets so many applications. And another insider tip, I applied as my first choice for London, and apparently it's quite it's easier to apply for different places like Germany or Poland. So if you really want to go to Google, maybe consider going to another country because apparently it's easier to get in. So I just sent them my CV and was super happy. I was on it quite early in the year, and I didn't hear back from them for, I'm not kidding, 7 months. So they got back to me in the middle of exam season and they were like, hey Sina, let's have an interview tomorrow, and I had an exam that day. So I was literally freaking out. But at that time where I didn't hear back, I was a bit worried and applied to a lot of other internships. I did try consulting. I was interviewing with BCG and McKinsey, so if any questions around that, I can maybe help. And I was quite scared, but the thing is, because I did so many other interviews, when they told me, hey, we're doing an interview with you tomorrow, I was quite prepared, because all the questions like teamwork, leadership skills I already had in my mind. So apply to as many internships as possible, just to get into interview situations and kind of learn how you need to talk to people, because it literally helps you a lot and you get a lot more confidence. So I only had 2 interviews. They were both half an hour on Hangouts. It's like Skype with Google. And they were quite happy. They were, cool, let's start like in 10 days. I was like, sure. I started. The interview started with a team building seminar in Paris because they apparently messed it up. They weren't even in London. So they're like, oh yeah, Sina, we just booked your hotel and the Eurostar to Paris. That was quite a nice surprise. And my role was a business intern, usually a tech intern or a business intern. And usually you're marketing, I would say. I was in the team which was called Go-to-Market. I still don't really know what they do, but my role was online to offline strategy. So I was looking at how you can combine the online experience when you're shopping with when you're offline going into a store. And every intern gets 1 to 5 projects over the whole internship. So it's kind of nice because you get a lot of, you have your own project, so you can really work on it. And so I had to do presentations, research, I even had to do a video about myself and talk about competitor news, so it can be anything really. And Google, it's actually true. They have free breakfast, free lunch, free dinner, a free gym classes.
Free baby food, free TV, free
it is really insane.
Yeah, the tech sector is so chill.
The thing is, it was really nice, and on my first day, my manager was like, hey, let's do yoga at 12. And it was a really nice working atmosphere. The problem was, like Beijing said, you're just sitting on your laptop and it gets a bit boring. So I was like eating and I don't know, I had a lot of fun, but it was actually quite hard to focus and concentrate on my work I had to do. And I think it was a bit boring in the beginning, the work I actually had to do, and then my manager told me, you're doing it wrong, Sina. You need to not Google and do online research, but actually talk to people. And that made it so much more interesting. So whenever you're kind of stuck in your internship, just really try to talk to people, and then much more comes up and different projects come up, different people give you different advice. And I think that was a really useful tip from my manager. Skills from BASc, what I find useful was that I really had a lot of topics I could talk about. So there was one guy who was a filmmaker several years back, and I was like, I took filmmaking last year in BASc. And usually they were quite interested in what my degree was, so that was kind of nice. And yeah, I guess if you have any questions, pop in.
What offices were you at?
I was at Soho. It's Tottenham Court Road station. The thing is, we have 4 offices here in London, and with your card you can enter any office. So I was like super welcome to just work at King's Cross. My brother got married in Germany, so they're like, oh yeah, no problems. You can just work from Germany for a week, and you got in with your card. It's quite international, so my manager wasn't even in the UK, she was in Paris.
She was French?
No. But they have like little boxes where you have Hangout or Skype interviews with everyone from around the world, so it literally didn't matter if she was next to me or not. So it's quite a cool aspect of Google that you can just go wherever you want to with the card. Yeah.
What kind of experience do you have that helped you get that job as an intern?
So I think because they get a lot of applications, you kind of need to have something interesting about your CV. So I did an internship with a company that do IT consulting, but as consultants they only hire autistic people. Or I did a project in China with a society here. There are just loads of you need to make it interesting. And another good tip for your CV is they need quantitative things on your CV. So you shouldn't say, I worked on this project, but you should say, I worked on this project and achieved an improvement of XYZ of 20%. So you kind of need to quantify your achievements, your results. Always try to have numbers on your CV. I basically rewrote my whole CV and just added numbers in every... It sounds bad, but I just added some numbers like 10%, that's what I improved. So just, try to make it really results-driven, like action and results-driven. Did you have a question? Or?
What was your course choice, pathways, and what
was
your target for the role that you
So I'm societies major and health and environment minor. I did filmmaking, business, marketing, energy systems, psychology and crime, game theory. Like I was so broad, and I think that might be a thing that they actually liked about me as well. Because when I had my interview, they told me we had quite good candidates too, but they were like, normal. So if you kind of make it, you can use it as your advantage that you're like all over the place. Because Google is quite broad anyway, so it doesn't matter if you don't have a business background. I think, take it as your advantage that you study so many different disciplines.
you apply for business consulting?
So you apply either for tech or business, and then you don't apply for a role. So I couldn't decide what I want to do. They just say, we choose you according to what we think you're best at. So most of the people were in marketing, some were in HR, and I was the only one in the go-to-market team. It's just random where you are.
Sorry, so can you put like every module you did on your CV?
No.
Then how should you tell it to them?
So obviously I said BASc, my degree, and I always start my interviews with like, I study arts and sciences, and then usually like, what's this? So then you can talk about it. So I didn't put it in my CV, but it's always really, really nice when you talk about BASc in your interviews. I mean, you can be like, I like with interdisciplinary, working with teams in different environments, getting to work with people with different mindsets, like all this kind of stuff everyone loves, and this is always like my number one point.
think that is a really, really good point, that as BASc students, that's your big selling point, that you are a bit different.
Yeah.
You do have a broad range of skills, but that's actually a really good thing, and it's really interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
So do try and get that across to employers, either through stuff you put in your application or when you're at interview. It's a really good thing to talk about.
I would say as well, like, just don't undersell yourself with BASc.
Yeah.
Like, don't think I don't have a strong quantitative background, qualitative background, or whatever. You know, you do have great things that employers want, and like really play those up.
Yeah, because also a lot of these companies are looking for innovation, and the best thing to be able to say is I can approach your problems from a completely different perspective, as well as multiple perspectives, which for them is just a whole new way of innovating, and that usually helps a lot.
And one last thing is about your potential. So whenever people will try to, trick you in interviews and say, oh, but you don't study, I don't know, finance, you're like, I have done quantitative methods, I've done statistics, I've done game theory. I have the potential to learn very fast because I'm a problem solver who draws from different disciplines to create new insight. Boom.
Boom! So, if no one's got any more questions for Sina, I think we'll move on to Keelan, who
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
And how did you at Google? How did you perceive like the chances of progressing in your career? Did you think to yourself, "I'm just stuck here now for the rest of my life, let's stay here"? Or?
Good question. So I think you have quite a lot of freedom within your work, and the only thing that I found out is, so I actually applied for a graduate role. The thing is, you can only apply for a sales role. So, or you have a marketing background. There's another program. But the thing, you can only join Google as a sales person, where you literally have to like sit on your laptop and write emails and do calls. So you have to do that for a year in order to do something else. So I think that didn't really I tried, but apparently sales didn't work out for me, so that didn't work. But within Google, the team changes every 2 years. So I'm not sure if you have quite high chances of become a manager or whatever, but you have loads of chances to swap around teams. So it's always very a changeable environment, and I think that's quite cool because you're always in different teams, always in different environments. But Alison from last year, I think her point was that she didn't have the feeling that you have quite a high success ladder in Google because there are really a lot of people. But still, I think it's quite cool. So yeah, worth a shot.
One thing that this reminded me of, I think it was this question you just asked, is how to summarise. If you're doing lots of modules and you're applying, or you have to fill out an application form, how do you state what you're doing? Because obviously if you put arts and sciences, it doesn't mean very much. And I know a lot of people will put things like, they'll say economics, maths, and English or something. They'll pull out their main subjects, as appropriate to the application, obviously.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I think
it's a good point. So I was quite lucky with Google that it was so broad, but usually it depends on the role you're applying to. Try to modify your CV anyway. If they say we need management skills, put in your CV management skills. So whatever they're asking for, put it in your CV, and then you can literally just pick out the modules that are relevant and put them on the CV.
I think that's
But of course, make sure that you have done it, because if you get to
Actually, I have something to say on that. For me, it has played out really well to say next year modules or current year modules include. So list your modules. So whenever you're doing an application form, check whether the degree option is open or closed. If it's from a list, choose the subject that you do that is most pertinent to that role. If it's open, write BASc Arts and Sciences, and not the pathways but the subjects. So I write computer sciences and literature, even though technically I major in literature, but that's all another story. And when in your CV...
It doesn't appear on drop-downs.
Exactly.
That's one thing to remember. It's not going to appear on probably the majority of any drop-down menu on an application.
I just put like
So,
IT.
Natalie, isn't there a drop down for other?
No.
Not
Depends.
Depends.
on your application.
Sometimes, but I feel that's different.
Yeah.
So I think Sweber's point is really good. If you have a module or a major or a minor that fits one of the options, pick that and then use the application form to explain it a bit later on. Don't feel like you're lying if they don't have an option for BASc. That's their fault. It's not yours. You have to make the best of it. So
I was just going to say, I think on a CV it's easier than an application form. I mean, what I tend to do is just pick out 3 or 4 modules, pick modules that are relevant to the role, pick ones that you enjoyed, that you're happy to talk about at interview, because it's a great thing if you don't want to talk about a particular module, you probably don't have to. If it's not on your CV, you can talk about ones you can say, or draw out experiences that you have from them. It's just about picking the experiences that are most relevant and most useful.
And actually, if you haven't taken a module yet, but will during the current year, that is relevant to the role, include it. I will take network security this year, which is fundamental for a career in cybersecurity, and I shamelessly plastered it at the top of my CV. So I don't have this yet, but I am going to study, and I will know it by the end of the year. So they know that you're actively trying to get into that area.
And you can do reading around modules that you're about to take. So it doesn't mean that you don't have any knowledge of it just because you haven't studied it yet. You can still do your own research, your own reading about that subject area. So if they do ask you about it in an interview, you can still talk about it. So I think that's a good point. Some of you may not feel comfortable doing that, but if you do, there's reading and research you can do around those subjects to make sure that you can talk competently about them if you're asked.
Even a Wikipedia page would be
anything.
a good starting point. Yeah, really.
So I think there's a really good point. So I'm going to just move it on to Keelan now, but you can come back and ask these guys questions afterwards.
Yeah, I'm going to the Book of Mormon tonight, but you're super welcome to message me on Facebook. Because Alison last year helped me so much, and she actually called me and helped me with my CV. So I'm super happy if you need any help, or if I should have a look over your CV. Super welcome too.
Sure. Apologies in advance if my voice isn't in the best shape. I do have a bit of a cold at the moment. So I worked for a company called VIA, which is a relatively small tech startup in the rideshare industry. Basically, the easiest way to explain it is it's just like a small version of Uber. They operate in 3 US cities at the moment, and they are launching in London in the near future. And basically, I was working in their London operations team. So the company was basically relatively international. A lot of administrative functions were based in New York. Their technology side was based in Tel Aviv, with some based in Russia as well. And then they have operations teams in the cities around the world where they work. So the London team was about 10 people in a shared office space in Shoreditch, basically near Liverpool Street. And the work that I was doing in that team was basically helping out with a lot of the things they were trying to do, which was mainly driver acquisition. So there was a lot of marketing, sales calls that were being made to drivers, trying to get drivers to sign up to be part of the platform, as well as continuing with those drivers through the whole registration process when they came into the office, checking a lot of documents and helping them get started basically on the app. So it was quite varied to begin with, at least. I first came across the opportunity through Natalie's emails. Again, obviously recommend those as a source. I also looked at other opportunities that came up through, the usual sources, LinkedIn, Jobs, Indeed, to name a couple that weren't mentioned so far. And from there, really, I just went along with the process. I had to fill in a short cover letter, a CV, and then I went along to an interview day with them. So I had a couple of 20-minute interviews with with a couple of members of their staff, and then, but before that, we had an exercise. We had to stand up and talk for 5 minutes about something we were interested in, which was a little bit of a strange exercise, but just be prepared for those kind of strange things to come up at interviews. And then after that, I had a Skype interview. One thing I would say about the whole assessment process was every step along the way, I had to prompt them to, get back to them when they hadn't given me a date for an interview, or I'd gone to the interview and they hadn't, followed up on that afterwards and things like that. So I think that's just something to do, especially with a company that I realised kind of when I was there, the reason why this is going on is they're just so busy all the time, and particularly small businesses maybe don't have a very clear recruitment process. It's really important, just keep persistent. If you don't get a response for a couple of days, it's always worth sending another email, because maybe not everybody does that, and it's a good way to progress things further. In terms of the internship itself, kind of already talked a little bit about some of the things that I was doing. It started off being like a really busy environment, very kind of classic startup ideas, in the sense that everybody was just getting together to do the same work that everybody needed to do. We went through a really, really busy phase. Practically every day we were breaking company-wide records for the number of drivers that were kind of registered in the office, which was the main task that we did. This was like more so than cities that had been established for years and across multiple sites. So that was really challenging to keep up with that. We had some quite late days where we were getting on with all of this, but that was really fun, really good atmosphere within the startup, because everyone was just basically mucking in and doing the work. As time went on, things changed a little bit, because as you probably heard about Uber in London, I'm sure everyone's heard about the issues with Uber in London at the moment, and the company I was working for was waiting for a license from Transport for London, essentially. And that kind of went on for the whole of my internship. And as time went on, it basically, things became quieter, because they were reluctant to take on more drivers because of this issue. I think that's just something to be aware of with startups. So I was on a 0 hours contract effectively, and so when things got quieter, I didn't have as much work, and in the end the internship finished earlier than I expected. So the nature of these kind of startups, they're in challenging kind of regulatory environments a lot of the time, and things can be a bit less predictable than your sort of 40-hour-a-week job at a big corporate. It's just something to be aware of. The other thing I found about that was that the work became less interesting then. Like, it was it essentially morphed into a data entry role. And I think, again, in a startup kind of business, things change quite quickly, and it was something that I was less interested in. It was just inherently less interesting work. So I think that's something that the internship kind of taught me, that those kind of jobs where you're doing the same thing day in, day out, that's something I actually find quite difficult. However, there were some things that were a bit more interesting. So one, just talking about some skills that I developed or on BASc that were useful to me. At one point during my internship, my boss said, okay, we need to find out about drivers' experiences of stopping on red routes in London. So do they get parking tickets in particular locations? We know what the law is, but we don't know what people's experiences are on the ground. So I'm going to give you a list of drivers that we've had in. You need to call them and you need to ask them about their experiences. And straight away I was just thinking, this is interdisciplinary research methods, semi-structured interviewing, just straight into it. I know how to do this. And that was really great. I'd never done something quite like that before, but it was definitely an opportunity for me to use those skills that I developed on IRM. In terms of things I developed, I think really interpersonal skills were something that I developed just over the course of the internship, talking with my manager about the things that I was happy and not happy about, breaking difficult news to drivers if we were saying we weren't taking on drivers that day or something like that, or a driver wasn't able to be registered, having those sort of more difficult conversations, as well as marketing calls on the phone. Those were all sorts of conversations I'd never really had before, so I think that was something I really gained from the internship. In terms of technical skills, I would say very little. I didn't really learn much in terms of technical skills from the experience, maybe using Salesforce, but it's pretty easy. I picked that up in a couple of days. The softer skills were definitely something I got more out of from that experience. Overall I'd say a good experience, some things unexpected. Any questions at this stage? Or I will obviously be around. Hi.
How many internships did you apply to?
How many did I apply for? I think I applied for about 5 and sent another couple of unsolicited emails to people who didn't have advertised ones. That's not very many by the standards of applications. Do expect to do a lot more. I would say one of the reasons maybe for that is because I was applying quite late. So things in startups and businesses like that tend to come up a lot later than the big corporates. And that's maybe why I didn't apply for as many internships. And I guess when I got lucky with this one, I didn't need to do any more, but like fully expect to do 10, 20, 30 applications.
So it's not really an average sort of amount of things you have to apply for. Some people get really lucky and they get the first thing they apply for.
Yeah,
other people can end up doing hundreds. It's not. There's no sort of route that's the same.
I would say it depends a lot on how competitive things are. If you're applying for things like Google and PwC and McKinsey and so on, like they're really, they're really competitive just numerically. The job I was applying for, maybe there are 10 or 20 people applying for the role. It's just a completely different ballgame.
Which does not mean it's not as challenging, because when you have smaller numbers, they can monitor you more closely.
Yeah, but I do think it's easier to get to the interview stage with smaller businesses, and then you can at least demonstrate your skills.
And the process as a whole will happen a lot more quickly. So maybe the turnaround from when they read your CV to when they offered you a job was a few weeks.
Yeah, probably 2 weeks.
With big schemes where they get 5,000 people applying for one role, it's going to take months. So it will go all the way through from now until Easter before they actually offer anything.
Yeah.
So there are differences depending on the size of the company, depending on what the company do. So. Okay, shall we move on to Sveva? Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Sveva. I do literature and computer science, and I had 2 internships this summer. One at PwC Cyber, and one at Wellcome Trust in their humanities and social science team, where I was doing digital strategy. So when I was at PwC Cyber, that was a very technical role within a really, really huge corporation. And it was a bit special because their cyber team is a very niche and like technical elite kind of unit. So they were a bit of the special snowflakes. So you would imagine PwC to be suits and really kind of stuffy, but my team was really, really tech startup kind of culture. My manager came in like flowery pants. I was like, oh my god. So I went in like, very business formal. They were like, Sveva, like, you don't need this. I was like, what do you mean? The work there was short. I had originally applied for a 6-week internship, but they filled the role while I was going through the recruitment process, so they offered me 1 week instead. It was the most intense 1 week I've ever had in my life. And my manager at some point was like, Sveva, like it's 6:30, you should go home. I was like, no, please let me stay. This is amazing. So when I was there, I learned about malware analysis, chasing hackers through networks, understanding who they are. And there was a massive ransomware attack when I was there. In June, everything, all hell broke loose, and I was there. I was like, secretly, this is really cool. And everyone around me, I expected, to be super crazy and scared. And they were like, yeah, it's just another one of these. It's fine. It's totally Russia anyway. And I was like, wow, these guys know their business. I'm actually interviewing with them now for a graduate role in a week. And what I can say about this technical role specifically is that going through the Big Four and big corporations in general for technology is a great way to receive very structured training. And instead, if you want more free kind of projects, you should probably look at startups. Because what you're going to get into a big firm and corporate is quite structured training, especially for sustained periods of time. In Wellcome Trust, which is the second largest charity in the world, they do medical research and they finance research on healthcare in an interdisciplinary way. So they work on the technical and scientific, but also on the human side of medicine. And I was expecting to be reading applications for funding in history of medicine the whole day, and instead they put me on a project doing digital strategy, where I had to drive the digital transformation of the team. So how to use the data extracted from these applications for their investment management. Are they investing too much in history of medicine, and should they invest more instead in, I don't know, the economics of drugs for a specific kind of disease? These kind of things. It was very interesting work. So I had the role of a business analyst, understanding what the team does and how I can help them be more efficient. I also worked in investment strategy for the team. So I analyzed the academic area of digital humanities and formulated a plan on whether it was worth investing in research in the field or not. How did I source opportunities? I started in September and I was all over the place. So Target Jobs, Milk Round, all these amazing newsletters that you get once a day and they really stress you out. Natalie's fantastic page, careers fairs. At UCL there are so many, really, and it's amazing. UCL Careers hosts such incredible events with employers. I got myself a mentor in IBM through there, got a contact in Cisco there, just by going to these events. And if you go to one of those events, speak to a recruiter, ask 1 or 2 clever questions, and introduce yourself at the end, they're going to remember you. I also carried on applying throughout the year to many different companies. I applied to about 20 at the end of the day and got 2.
Better than me.
Yeah. Wow, success rate. I would say 2 key tips that I found were, number 1, go to events. Every single chance you have to meet the employer directly, go. When I met PwC was at the Science Museum. They were hosting an event there, and that's where I got in contact with one of the recruiters who put me in contact with another recruiter, and then I was speaking to her on the phone once a week. And at the end, she called me personally to tell me, oh yeah, we're so happy to have you on board. So it plays out to have contact with these people. Just if you're interested in the job and you ask them questions in a positive way, they're really happy to talk to you, because people do not put in the effort to pick up the phone and call them or write them a polite email. Yeah. And so when you get that conversation going, like Marion was saying, it really helps them out. By the way, interrupt me at any time to ask me any questions. Yes.
I have a question. So you said you were majoring in literature but minoring in computer science.
Yeah.
How much computer science do you have to know to first get a job in the IT industry, for example, like what you did? Because it does sound really cool.
I'll take a bit of a detour on this. I wanted to do software engineering, and I applied for a role with Cisco, and everything went really well, and then they selected another candidate who was doing computer science rather than me, even though we had same score in the test and everything. And then when I came to PwC for the interview, they were like, so you actually minor in computer science. And at that point, I was really not taking it. So what I said was, well, I have studied programming. I have studied, on my minor, I have done Java. I have done Python on quantitative methods 1 and on quantitative methods 2. And what I talked about was my projects. So cybersecurity technical is technical. If you want to work in software engineering, it is technical. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to tell you that if you have never done programming before, it's easy to get it. If you want to do technology consulting, you don't need programming at all. When you want to do technology consulting, all you need to have is a genuine interest in how technology works, in how it enables businesses. So if you want to do tech consulting at any big company, you may have never seen a line of code before and you will be fine. When you want to do something like analyze malware, you kind of have to have an idea of stuff. But I did 2 programming courses and then the 2 quantitative methods courses, and I was fine because I showed them that I had been working on things and that I had the potential, and I told them, I don't know what an RSA encryption key is. Give me 1 day and I will tell you everything about encryption, because BASc makes me learn fast.
And if it helps on that point, I did 10 weeks at a tech company, and I have never even touched computer science in my life. Like, I've never done anything to do with tech. I barely knew what cloud computing was. And you're kind of fine.
I mean, I think like having done like a non-tech role in a tech startup, like tech startups don't just have tech people, and big tech companies don't just have tech people. They really
actually sometimes like it, the fact that we can understand. We can sort of understand the tech because we're good at understanding other subjects. So you act as sort of like a bridge between the two. Because sometimes they have a lot of people who are very techy in the company, and then some who are sort of the sales role. And being that person in the middle who can understand both on like a fairly decent level. You don't have to like fully understand how the technology is working, but you can put models together in like certain ways. That's almost more beneficial to them than you being strictly technical.
Yeah. And actually, that was what I did at Wellcome Trust. So the reason why the Humanities and Social Science team got me on board is because they needed someone who had an interest and a background in the humanities, but who also liked to play around with technology. So I knew nothing about their data platform. They were like, do you know Tableau? And I was like, no. They're like, okay, you're working on it. I was like, I guess I am working on it. And so I taught myself how this data platform works, very intuitive. What I really wanted was someone who would listen to them, saying, oh, we want to do this and that, and then go to the technology team and tell them in a bit more technological terms what the team wanted to do with this data tool. So it's really about bridging expertise. The application process, widely different. Last year, in my 20 applications, I have experienced every possible kind of recruitment thing ever. I think everything from online application forms to CV and covering letter, online tests. PwC is very strict, for example, all the big four and all the big corporates are. Application form, online tests, numerical, logical, and situational judgment. Then you pass the phone interview. For PwC, it was 20 minutes around their 5 core abilities. They tell you in advance, so you know what to prepare on. And then it's assessment center where you repeat the tests and you have a group exercise. And so I am still quite scared of this kind of process that I have to go through again. But my top tip is you can hijack this process. Okay? You can do it. You just have to study for it. It's an additional module on top of your modules. If you want to pass the tests, you practice the tests and you do them with a friend who is also practicing for the tests. If you want to do the interview, you practice with a friend who's doing the similar interviews as you. You can totally do this. They pass people who have never done anything of the sort in their life and that end up not enjoying the job. So if you have a passion for it, the only thing you have to do is study for it. Wellcome Trust was radically different. That was much more interest-driven. You had to submit your CV and answer some motivational questions, which really had to do with your particular interest in them and in their interdisciplinary work they do. And then it was an interview, a panel interview with 3 people on the team, which was really funny because their Skype wasn't working, so it was kind of a blind date, but like really blind in the sense that they were seeing me and I wasn't seeing them, so it was really fun. And I heard like 3 different voices. I was like, okay. But really about the application process, you can hijack it and you can win it and smash it. You just need to prepare.
I'd just add with the Wellcome Trust, even though it is a charity, their internship scheme is really competitive. It's super competitive. It's right up there with the big schemes.
Yeah.
So
they are one of the like times 100 best employers.
So it's not just like banks that have a lot of people applying. So
oh my god, Wellcome Trust has an amazing finance and investments program. I'm sorry, anyone who wants to do finance in this room, go apply to Wellcome Trust. They have the most amazing like turnover I've ever seen. Their finance guys are crazy. Like they literally drop Goldman Sachs to go to Wellcome Trust. I'm not kidding. Anyone who wants to speak to me about this, come, everyone, and we can have a chat about their amazing investment plan.
Yeah, I also applied for Wellcome, so I can second what you're saying, Natalie. Basically, like it is a competitive process. I got through to interview. I wouldn't say the thing is, it's not as intense as the likes of PwC. They don't do at least in my experience, they didn't do situational judgment tests. They didn't do assessment centres. It was much more kind of just 2 or 3 people on a panel interviewing you. So more traditional, like competency-based interviewing.
But I think it's popular with BASc students because it is interdisciplinary and they're only up the road. So
they're just there.
Yeah. Every morning you walked in there and you work there.
And there's a good reason for that.
Guys, Welcome Trust is amazing. They have an amazing culture. They support you so much. You meet people who have done the most crazy things, from doing a PhD to then moving into consulting, and then having a startup, and then they move into Welcome Trust, and you're like, how have you done this thing in the space of 10 years? So these people are amazing, and they offer you so many opportunities to develop. It's not only humanities or finance. They have insight and analysis, technology. They have human resources, policy, legal, everything. So go check them out.
Yeah, I applied for insight and analysis, so if anyone wants to talk about that, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, what was it like? I'm sorry, guys, I'll try to keep it really brief. What it was like during the internship, PwC already said it was hunting cyber criminals, learning about malware and all really crazy stuff that you see on television, and it's really like that. So I was like, oh, wow. You actually, test and crack other people's websites, and they pay you to do it. That's really cool. And it was also research, so it's a very changing industry, so you have to keep yourself up to date constantly. My main task was writing a client intelligence newsletter. So I had to research basically everything and then draw out the business impact of the most relevant policy or product or cyber attack news, including the live coverage of the attack in June. So I was like, fantastic. And instead of Welcome Trust, I've already said a bit of what I did. What I enjoyed and didn't enjoy. My week at PwC was amazing. Enjoyed everything, even the client meetings, which were quite daunting. And there you really get an exposure to big clients. I was talking with people from a tier 1 financial institution, and they were asking me questions about cyber risk posture, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm talking to a CISO about how they should run their business, but it's okay. And instead, I would say Welcome Trust was a much more relaxed environment, not as high drive, but it really allows you to develop critically and to take projects much further. What I enjoyed everything at Welcome Trust too. They threw me into a business analyst role, which I'd never done before. And that was an amazing challenge for me because my managers really understood what I wanted to develop on, and they made sure that I got the exposure to the people and the projects to do that. Did you find yourself using any skills specifically developed through BASc? Yes. I mean, at PwC, programming, of course, but also game theory and the study of risk, but also literary theory. Because in literary theory, you have to combine perspectives, and that's exactly what we do on BASc all the time. We look at things from the economic, social, political, technological point of view all at once. And that's something really good at. So if you have any research roles, I think BASCers are amazing at that. And a Welcome Trust, again, interdisciplinary research methods, that was fundamental. A bit of quantitative methods, because knowing how to work with data is really useful. And also really the ability to work with teams that come from all backgrounds. How I developed as a result. I am much more confident. I know that I am employable because I have the skills that employers want. And I know that I have nothing less than any person who does pure economics or pure technology or pure anything else, because I have potential to develop. I have grounds in any of the disciplines I study and the potential to build on them, which is something that cannot be said for everyone and anyone out there. So really make sure not to undersell BASc, because it's your ace. And you must not forget to play it, because it's really what gets you through the door. And then, yeah, that is my internship experience. Please really ask me any questions, even CV reviews like Stina said. I'm really happy to help you with anything because I've been doing it for a year.
I think we're just on that really positive note about BASc. I swear I didn't pay Sveva to say that. We'll just move on to Misha, and then if you want to grab these guys afterwards, then you can ask some questions.
I will be incredibly quick, so that you don't have to wait around any longer. I worked for Amazon Web Services, which is basically on-demand cloud computing services. It's the leading one at the moment with sort of Google and IBM just behind. Amazing company, really, really good fun. I would highly recommend their internship. And we were the first cohort to go through. There's like 15 of you who will be in the internship. My work involved, well, this is what's great about the company. So I was actually first put in PR because it was sort of like a marketing internship. So I was writing articles, doing briefing books, I was conducting interviews, talking to people like the CTO of Ocado, stuff like that. Really, really good fun. But then I personally didn't find PR that pushing in terms of work, or at least it just wasn't really where my interests were. So I just started speaking to the other guys around the office, and that's what's great about the internship is it's such a flat structure of the company. You can go up to absolutely anyone, email anyone, and just ask, so can I do some work for you instead? And also because the other interns are in other groups, they have different managers, so you can go and speak to their managers, they can put you in touch with them. So I was doing some data analysis for the sales team, doing some of the startup stuff, I did business development. You each do like your own personal project, so I was working with the public sector team. They also put you through loads of trainings and stuff because it's kind of a bit like a training program for the grad scheme. So it's great because they give you loads of trainings which, if you don't want to stick with them, are unbelievably helpful for applying to any of the other company in tech. Because, like I said, I had absolutely zero knowledge of technology, and now I can go in and be like, I can use this, this, and this. On top of that, they also really structured it as an internship and really wanted us to learn. So we ran charity fundraiser events. I also ran an event for they have a program which helps military service leavers and people with the Prince's Trust. So I ran an entire program, an event for that. In terms of application process, it was CV, video interview, which was about 7 questions, all situational, and then an assessment centre where you do a group sort of project. You're in groups of 4, you design a new product for Amazon or a new something for Amazon, or basically it's just showing how you work in a team, whether you're innovative in your ideas, and then you have 2 45-minute interviews back to back, which are very daunting, but actually really not that bad when you sit down because the guys in the company are so great. They're so nice. They're all situational, so very easy to plan for because they give you their 12 leadership principles, and all you have to do, and again, this is where BASc is actually very handy, is give examples of a time you thought big or a time you showed innovation in a difficult situation. And we can just be like, oh yeah, no, I did that in this module, and oh yeah, I did that in this module, and it's very easy to do that kind of thing. A lot of these companies also look for leadership is a very, very strong part of their sort of assessment process. So if you can put any sort of, even if you just helped in like a charity or a volunteering or something, it's surprisingly helpful on your CV. In terms of developing, I think I'm just going to reiterate the fact that surprisingly, I think it can be very daunting applying to internships because a lot of them give like suggestions of what degree you should have, and you kind of start to restrict yourself and think, okay, no, I'm never going to get that because clearly someone who is actually advanced in that subject is going to get it over me. Don't let that stop you. I think also internships just in general are incredibly helpful because there is a confidence that I think you lose in education because we're always taught we can't really fail in terms of exams and stuff because you kind of just get one chance, especially at university. You have your coursework, you have your exams, there's no like back and forth with people, whereas in the company they're all about innovation, they're all about failing fast and just like getting on with it and just trying your best. And so you pick up this confidence very quickly, and I'd say that is incredibly helpful, especially then when talking to other people and like having that confidence to go and speak to other companies. I mean, like you're able to do that already, but I think some people, like, I would never really be able to just go up to someone at a fair and go, "Can I have a job?" Or like start. Like not. Like, I wish just being able to go up to someone and be like really confidently asking them about their company and understanding, because I just always panicked that I was going to ask the wrong question. So I think internships in general really build that. Also, great thing about AWS is the internship helps you then get onto their grad scheme.
Yeah. And
another plus is it's very well paid, which as a student is quite helpful. But I would say as an internship goes, that is one plus of it being a big company, is there was a really great structure, and the connections you make in the company are very, they're really quite incredible. Whereas I'm now working at a startup now who actually met through AWS, but the work is very different, and they're still finding their feet. So I think it depends on, in terms of applying for internships, I think it depends on what you're looking for. The big companies will probably give you more structure, but potentially less room for movement, I don't know. It's more like you will be kind of given a role. AWS is quite unique in the sense that you can kind of make it what you want. Whereas the startup I'm in now, I pretty much make up what work I want to do and see where I have I have more impact on the company, but it's harder work, hence why I was so late, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's about it. If you guys want to ask anything afterwards, feel free.
So I think just so we can sort of finish this off, I'm just going to say, you can ask questions in a minute, it's fine. But just thank you to all of our panellists.